So, welcome everyone. Warm greetings from Madhyam Council for Conflict Resolution. Madhyam is a leading organization in the area of alternative dispute resolution, founded by highly accomplished professionals. It is committed towards empowering individuals and communities to resolve their disputes using collaborative processes instead of adversarial ones. And I'm proud to say that today its members comprise of many internationally accredited and experienced mediators. In its endeavor to adopt the best practices and capacity building, Madhyam seeks to collaborate and engage with ADR professionals and institutions through domestic and international conferences and training programs. Community mediation and peer programs in schools and colleges are important initiatives of Madhyam to empower communities and young minds. Through Madhyam Matters, our web series, we wish to bring to you important dialogues that have become crucial for effective conflict resolution. In the fast changing landscape of law and policy, our accomplished panel today needs no introduction. They are senior mediators and trainers from 3 different regions in India. Each of them is a pioneer in the mediation movement. Mr. Amarjeet Singh Chandiok is the president of Madhyam Council for Conflict Resolution in Delhi. Ms. Leila Olapalli is the founder of Center for Advanced Mediation Practice, CAMP, Bengaluru. Mr. A.J. Jawad is a trustee of the Foundation for Comprehensive Dispute Resolution, FCDR. Our moderators for the day are no less. They are also accomplished senior mediators and trainers and pioneers in the mediation movement. We have our moderators, Ms. Sadhna Ramachandran, who is the Vice President of Madhyam, and Mr. J.P. Singh, Secretary General of Madhyam. With this, I now hand over the proceedings to our moderators.
Thank you, Sumit. Mr. Chandiok, Leila, Jawad, it's indeed wonderful to have all 3 of you with us today together. It's because we know of your extraordinary leadership of the mediation movement. You are, for the mediation family in India, individually and collectively, symbols of all that collaborative resolution stands for. Today, JP and I wish to dip into your vast experience to talk to us on a proposition that is as dynamic and as critical as the promise of mediation itself. An issue that faces us practicing mediators every single day. A debate that evokes strong reactions all over the world. Process and domain expertise in mediation, a nuance or an overlap. That's our proposition. But before we begin the interactive session, we would request each one of our panelists to give us their opening remarks and their basic position on the proposition. May we start with Mr. Chandiok?
Thank you, Sadhna. Thank you, everybody. Welcome this evening. I hope everybody is fine and safe at your respective ends through this hour of crisis. We hope and expect that you will be able to participate in this webinar by Madhyam. My opening remark with respect to the subject that you have proposed, Sadhna, is that the domain knowledge and domain expertise is an essential feature of mediation. And in the absence of domain knowledge, at least, the mediation would be incomplete. Let me just make good by 3 good examples of it, and I'll leave that question to be answered by the audience rather than, or you probably, or maybe my other co-panelists. That in the Arbitration Act 1996, we have 3 concepts totally part of the ODR. Arbitration, when we go to section 30, it refers to mediation. When we go to part 3, it refers to conciliation. Yet there is so much of debate of confusion between conciliation and mediation. Now look at the situation in CPC, for example, or before I even take you there, in the Arbitration Act itself, these are three distinct features provided in this statute. When we went to CPC in 2002, if you see section 89, and if you put that on the screen, we can see that A, B, C, D are specifically provided for. Yet, and then interesting part is subsection 2, which deals with each part of them as separate. What will you do when it's arbitration? What will happen when it's a conciliation? What will happen when it's something else? Judicial pronouncement, which includes Lok Adalat, and then brings mediation. Yet, we see we are mixing up all these propositions. And when we framed rules in respect of mediation, in 2004, to give you an example, you will find both mediation and conciliation rules were framed together. When conciliation is subheading under B of chapter under 2002, given under CPC, conciliation is part 3, yet we mixed up when we made the rules. We did the same position in 2018. So should we had the domain knowledge, or did we have the framers had domain expertise? I leave that question open for you. Look at something else now. In 1996, a statute occupies the field. Now, can we have something distinct by a subordinate legislation, distinct from what is provided in the statute? On first principle of law, therefore, the knowledge of domain knowledge of that position, or even the constitutional provision, is so essential for the purpose of looking into this part. Look at further. In Andhra Pradesh, a High Court of Judicature at Hyderabad, in 2017 framed rules. It said Alternative Dispute Resolution and Mediation Rules 2017. As if mediation doesn't form part of the ADR. So they said that mediation, let me even omit that part. But if you see Rule 3, which Sumit will put it on the screen, the word used is judicial settlement and mediation in section 89 C and D under subsection 2 shall be interchangeable. How do you do that? Now look at a statute which comes in 2013, which is Companies Act, section 442. These, if you look at that on the screen, you will find section 442. Central government to make a panel or experts called mediation and conciliation panel. Then what are the qualifications? I'll come to that later. I'm not troubling you at this moment in my opening remarks. Subsection 2 talks of reference. Subsection 2 talks of so modo reference by the government or the NCLT or the NCALT when it's a two parties joint action to go to mediation. And what is more interesting is subsection 5 and 6. It says the said mediator on the panel would make a recommendation. And most interesting is subsection 6, which says you may file objections. Therefore, where is the basic concept of domain knowledge or domain expertise? With even the legislature, even the framers of subordinate legislation like courts, the high courts. Therefore, can we say today that there can't be a distinction between knowledge of domain knowledge? In fact, it reminds me of my old professor, Professor Latika Sarkar. She would often remark to us in the, please be attentive, at least have the domain knowledge of what I'm teaching to you, so that you may not become an expert, but at least have the domain knowledge. Therefore, the fundamental question would be in any mediation, in any situation, not being advocated at the moment, judicial settlement. unless we have to make that settlement within the boundaries laid down by law. So therefore, it will be essential for me to have domain knowledge. If I am an expert, it's an added advantage. But I must confess that even after being at the bar for so long, or over 48 years today, I am still a student. I learn every day. COVID has taught me many more principles of law, which I never learned earlier. Therefore, I would remain, nobody can be called an expert, I agree. But there is certainly a distinction between the two. At least somebody who has looked at the statute in more detail, I can maximum say this. But domain knowledge certainly would be required for resolving or entering into the domain of mediation in any sphere whatsoever, in any conflict whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Chandiok. I must say that through this web of legislation that all of us have been grappling with, and through, if I may put it, your very, very provocative beginning of this debate, I think there's been a lot of thought and a lot of thought for future debates that we are likely to have and we will need to have. May I request Leila to say her opening remarks and her position on the subject?
Sadhana, as a mediator, let me tell you, I do not have positions.
Okay. On the proposition. On the proposition.
Yeah.
Proposition debate.
So,
well said, Leila.
So, you asked the question, the difference between process knowledge and process expertise. When I did my 40-hour training, I remember then with Mr. Greg Rayleigh, many of you know him.
Yes.
After the 40 hours, I asked him, Mr. Rayleigh, you know, I'm a lawyer of 25 years. Constitution law, civil law, exotic propositions in law. And then I feel mediation is simplistic. You're teaching me about communication, empathy, emotion. Am I the right person to be doing all this? That was 14 years ago. Today, after my years of experience and exposure with mediation, I must tell you, during this COVID days, I'm doing 3 online mediation trainings on the same subject, all on mediation. Because I have realized we are dealing with this animal called human being who is irrational. These are not my words. This is from Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the famous book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. Man is an irrational being. And you're getting this irrational being to take a decision, self-determination. I can't even tell him what to do. So it needs a lot of training. So I'm talking about mediation. I do respect what Mr. Chandiok has said, that our law currently as it stands is very confusing. Is the core value of mediation, that is self-determination, how is it being incorporated into our law? So I choose to leave that aspect out. I'm going into mediation as a purist, as a traditionalist, and that's where I want to be. So in the traditional sense, as a mediator, I am supposed to gain trust from both parties. I need to sit in a private session with one side and get him to trust me to reveal all the secrets in this dispute, or as much as he can, fully knowing that half an hour later, I'll be sitting similarly in a closed room with his opponent. How do I get the trust of both these people? Party A tells me I never want to do anything with Party B. I don't want to see him in my life. How do I understand that what he's saying is, let him give me an apology and we'll do a joint venture? We all know the skills of mediation. We know the process, empathy, asking the right questions, bringing out the underlying emotions, not disturbing the client-counsel relationship, balancing power. We know these techniques. We know the core values of self-determination, neutrality, how important it is to be able to get the self-determination from the parties. These skills are very important. But at the same time, I think we also need to realize and recognize that today mediation is going to be a profession. We have to sell our services. We have to be available in the market. Just like arbitrators do, lawyers do, we have to sell our skills in the market. When we sell our skills in the market, what is it that we need? 3 things. We need to be trained, good training. Secondly, we need experience. Only with experience we are able to discern what exactly is the party, does the party want? What kind of mediation? Is it transformational mediation? Is it mediation where they want evaluation and quickly get to the numbers and they help them to come to a decision? So we need to understand what the party needs. So experience is important. Third, very important, our stature. What is our stature? What is our reputation? When K.V. Kamath mediated the Reliance dispute, it is a high likelihood that he will resolve. That's his reputation. Similarly, if we have a high number of successes in a particular field, we build the reputation. Or if we have the reputation of high achievement in a field, then we are taken in the market. But I believe with training, good training, high levels of experience, and a good reputation that we build, that is sufficient to sell our services in the market on the grounds of self-determination. Eventually, we respect the value of self-determination.
Thank you, Laila. I think what you have brought out with from your experience is extremely important, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with the human being, whether it's in a commercial matter or whether it's in a matrimonial matter or whether it's in any other matter. So we need to be experts in dealing with that human being. I think that's the basis, and that's where self-determination comes from. So thank you, Laila, for setting the ball rolling from the other point of view. JP, would you like to...
I just want Sadhna 1 second to put an observation so that Javed can look at it with your permission.
Of course.
That under this qualification provided in various statutes for mediators, one is I am a retired judge of the High Court or the Supreme Court, where I've always done adversarial. I am a lawyer with 5 years or 10 years standing second. In now companies, I may be a professional for 15 years. Therefore, these 3 elements, he, by the fact that he has remained a judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court, how does he get either trained as a mediator or as an experience or as a reputation as a mediator? He can't get any of those 3 things. Only this remark before Javed takes over.
Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
That's the qualification.
Yes, sir. JP, would you like to come in here?
No, I think I got a key word from Laila, the experience. I'll take it forward when I put the next question to Mr. Chandyok. You go ahead, Sadhna.
Okay, right. Jawad, now having heard Mr. Chandyok's strong views on domain expertise / knowledge, and Leila on the expertise to really use the process with the human being, with the person. We'd like to hear your views on the proposition from your experience.
Thank you, Sadhana ma'am. First of all, thank you Madhyam, thank you Sadhana ma'am, JP, Chandyok sir for this great opportunity. It's a real privilege to be here with all of you who are, the icons of mediation in India. As far as I think, when two of these brilliant experts have thrown so much of light on the different perspectives, anything that I would say would like holding a lamp to two bright suns. Okay. So that is the difficult situation that I've been placed in. Now, one point which Chandyok sir made is a very, very valid point. What is the statutory qualification that is prescribed for appointment of mediators under the different statutes? By virtue of being a judge, or by virtue of being a chartered accountant, or by virtue of just being a senior advocate, do I have the skill and expertise to be a mediator? Is a question that actually these statutes beg that question. And one important point that Leila ma'am made was about mediation as a profession. Now, when we have a more detailed discussion, I would like to elaborate a little more on that aspect of mediation as a profession, because that is I feel that is the best way of looking at it when we discuss whether we need domain expertise or process expertise. Basically, I don't see any clash between the two. I don't see any difference between the two. But only thing is, I am a little cautious when we talk of expertise. Because what happens when we claim to be experts in something is that we get a tunnel vision. We get obsessed with the formulas that we have with us based on our expert knowledge. And we try to fit everything within that formula. And my feeling is because of the experience that I have seen, when, for example, if I have done some construction arbitrations where retired chief engineers of CPWD have come as arbitrators. There I see that their domain expertise somehow blocks them from looking at things in a more creative manner. They feel that this is how things should be done. And if somebody has not done it strictly in accordance to what they feel is the right way of doing it, they give a finding against that person. Now, as mediators, we are in a slightly different position, because here we are not going to tell who's right and who's wrong. But if we have a domain expertise, the problem that I see that would come is, are we going to start judging the issue even before we are giving the opportunity to the parties to see whether there is any creative way of coming out of the situation? So that is one of the concerns that I have with the word expertise. Domain knowledge, yes. I'm in absolute agreement with Chandyok sir that domain knowledge is absolutely necessary. And process expertise, yes. There I don't mind using the word expertise, because the skills that you possess as a mediator are absolutely necessary, because that is why you undergo the training. That is your basic qualification for calling yourself as a mediator. So I would just like to stop there and proceed further, because otherwise I don't want to take too much of time before getting to the more specific questions that I'm sure are going to come our way from both the moderators as well as the participants.
Thank you, Jawad. I think it's interesting and very loaded, if I may say so, that the word expertise you feel is not is almost dangerous when it goes with domain, but is absolutely necessary when it goes with process. And I think that's kind of a middle ground where you are cautioning about this domain expertise, and I'm glad you brought out the difference between domain knowledge and domain expertise. And this term expert, Mr. Chandyok referred to it, and Laila and you referred to it. It's a very interesting term. May I go back to Mr. Chandyok for this term, sir? Now, the term being used everywhere is the expert mediator. An expert mediator. We'd all like to become or be known as expert mediators, or strive towards becoming expert mediators. Now, in your view, sir, to be an expert mediator, do you need to be only a domain expert or a process expert?
That's exactly what Sadhana said. I did not say that a person, and that's what the question I raised after I interrupted, sought your permission after Laila said, that the very fact that the statute today prescribes that if I am a lawyer, it presupposes I am a mediator, which is incorrect. I am not even suggesting. My suggestion is that I must have domain knowledge. I was giving you the first opening remarks to show that even the legislature does not seem to be an expert in domain knowledge. What are we talking about ourselves?
Yes.
The legislature does not know. The high courts don't know when they frame their subordinate rules. So where is the question of somebody being an expert in any domain knowledge?
Yes.
People tend to take their stand. It's a different question. What I think Javed put that question to be an engineer or a PWD. Now his experience in life has shown that he must take that rigid view is a different question. But then he can't be, I am not even suggesting, I'm only saying that you must have domain knowledge. If you have domain knowledge and you are trained mediator, where you will understand the language of negotiation, where you will understand how to negotiate, where you will have to demonstrate empathy, where you know how to talk to people and put leading questions. But if I don't know the fundamentals of that subject matter, then I will not be able to empower the parties to come to a decision. I must have that fundamental grip within my brain. Use these skills as an expert mediator to bring parties together. But if I don't know the fundamental, let me give you a very small example of it. Many people in India, at least for the last few years, I understood it, did not know what is meant by an essential patent. When we first time stood in the court said, what are we talking? But it has developed over the period of time. Now, but if as a mediator, I do not know what is an essential patent, or I do not know a position mark, for example. And today in Delhi, for example, 63% of IPR cases are coming to Delhi. And if I have to go to pre-litigation mediation, I must understand those. Therefore, my only request was that a mediation without the domain knowledge may not be, I may have process knowledge, I may be an expert mediator, but I must also possess as an essential element of mediation the domain knowledge of the subject before I take up that mediation. Otherwise, I will not be able to help the parties to move forward.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for raising the several red flags that you have raised about the legislation itself, about the understanding of our legal system of what domain and process expertise or knowledge mean. And I think we will have to keep raising, thank you for doing that, sir. We'll have to keep raising these red flags for quite a while now, because mediation is such a dynamic subject and is growing and changing and evolving every day, that we will need these red flags, I think, for a long, long time. I think, JP, you need to come in now. JP, can you hear me?
JP is muted.
Yeah.
Yes, now it's. Yes, JP, I think you. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I think you got muted.
Sir, I'd like to begin with Mr. Chandyok.
Yes.
Now, Laila says that experience can get you through a mediation process. Sir, Albert Einstein said, Sir, Laila said that experience can get you through the mediation process. Now, Albert Einstein says, and I quote, "The only source of knowledge is experience." Sir, we have lately seen a shift from learning to experiential learning. This is amply demonstrated by the role plays we have included in the mediation trainings. Now, as you have vast experience and knowledge of conducting various complex mediations, the question to you is there a difference between domain knowledge and domain expertise in mediation?
No, I said that, JP, there is no dispute about it. I am actually propagating that, in at least speaking for me in this country, neither the legislature nor we lawyers nor anybody else is an expert in any domain knowledge. First of all, let me be clear on that one. I have shown you instances of the legislature doing all this, what they are doing. The High Court's framing rules when they don't make the distinction between A to B, and they're saying they can be interchanged between judicial settlement and a lok adalat with mediation. Therefore, I am not even saying my first is that an experience of a particular subject of law does not make me an expert. I am only saying, yes, experience in mediation does make me an experienced mediator. I will, with the knowledge of domain knowledge available to me, I'll be closer. I'll be able to use negotiation, communication, my experience as a mediator. Now, let me give a very crude example to answer. If I have to build my reputation, and if I have got a settlement through which does not even look at who's going to pay the stamp duty, for the example, or who is going to pay the capital gain tax if there's a transfer of property. Now, look at a simple principle. In a partnership, I don't need a sale deed. If the asset is of the partnership coming to me on a dissolution, that dissolution itself is a sale. But if I don't know this fundamental principle, how will I be able to tell the parties either when I'm separately sitting with them or joint meeting? That experience as a mediator is essential. I am not saying that I don't need training in mediation. And I, with respect to everybody, I don't think 40 hours of mediation training makes me a mediator at all. Every case that I get in mediation gives me a new knowledge, how to conduct that mediation, gives me a new experience, gives me a new negotiation skill, gives me a new communication to make, because you don't know which parties are coming. New parties may come, their communication you have to do with them may be totally different than what I did with the last case. And especially in relation to commercial matters today, where commercial moves fast. So look at this 4 p.m.'s press conference by the learned finance minister. If I have heard her correctly, she says, so far as the disputes in relation to real estate are concerned, we will bring a statutory amendment to say that be a force majeure. Then what happens to other commercial matters? But it may be right or wrong. I don't know. When the policy comes, one will have to look at it. But what I'm saying is, if somebody would have advised her that force majeure is a contractual term, you must bring a law which covers everybody. Why only one real estate? Why only MNCs? Why only development companies or something? So what I'm saying is, your knowledge of domain fundamental principles. Please see the words of section 34. Public policy of Indian law. That public policy of Indian law, if the arbitrator doesn't know, the award gets set aside. And please tell me, why would that mediation settlement not be bad if it is contrary to the fundamental policy? What I'm saying is, you require your skill, your experience as a mediator will take you to this profession, no doubt. But if you don't have the domain knowledge of the subject in which you are mediating, I'm sorry, there'll be an impediment. And that's imperative according to me.
Sadhana.
JP, continue. Please continue with Laila.
Okay, Laila, now you talked of, the experience getting you through the mediation process. Now, coming to the process knowledge and process expertise, do you find any difference between the two?
See, JP, I agree with Mr. Chandyok to the extent. My job as a mediator is to shepherd the parties and the lawyers to a resolution. And some amount of knowledge is required. I need to speak the language. If the word essential patent comes into the mediation brief, when I get to the mediation brief, I should know everything, as far as possible, to be able to speak that language. I shouldn't go into the mediation room and ask the party, what is the meaning of essential patent? Or ask the lawyer, what is essential patent? I lose credibility. So what I need to do when a brief comes with that word, I must move from novice to expert, from not knowing to knowing. I must prepare. I speak to the lawyers, I speak to the parties. I believe there are 4 experts in the room when they come to mediation. I speak to them. I understand from them what it means. I do my own homework. So I prepare for that mediation. I try and understand what are the core issues in that mediation. If a construction dispute comes to me, if I look at the core issue, and I'm not an expert in construction, supposing I'm not an expert in construction, I look at the core issue. For all you know, it might be a vendor dispute that has manifested as a construction dispute. A bankruptcy dispute, it manifests as a bankruptcy dispute. When I look at the core issue, it's a money recovery. So I need to prepare. I need to understand the core issues. Is it something which is very technical? Do I need an expert to come in? For example, I mediated an IP dispute between employers and employees. And the complaint was that it is a theft, IP theft, there's non-compete, all these factors came in. And I couldn't understand the IP codes and all that. So I said, whether there is an infringement or not, I need to understand this better. Can we have an expert? And they told me, there's no expert in this country who will understand this code. And how do I move forward? I brought the experts in the room together. The 2 parties, they were the experts. They looked at the code. I built that communication. To what extent do you feel there is infringement? They narrowed the issues and they found their solution. So that was the expertise that I brought in. Whereas another construction dispute, it was an infrastructure, road laying during Asian Games in Delhi. It was highly complex. Many technical issues were involved. I brought in the technical experts, the financial experts, and I managed that conversation. So my process expertise was to manage the experts, because handling experts is not that easy. They can take over. So as a mediator, I had to have the skill when to bring them in, when to keep them out, how to handle them. So that is my expertise. And often you find, if you really look for domain expertise, there will be nobody in the country. If it's too stringent a requirement, there will be a very small pool of mediators who can handle that particular situation. So my perspective on this is, we need to bring in domain knowledge fast into our process. We need to understand that, move from not knowing to knowing, and use the experts that are available in the room. So I'm not for a moment saying you don't need knowledge, but 10 mediations of that code or IP that was involved, I become an expert.
That's probably the position of judges when they are assigned rosters. They have to
Absolutely.
get
Absolutely.
lawyers before. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Leila. Now, if I can go to Jawad on this very, very interesting topic of expertise. Now, I got a couple of related questions for you. Now, if given a choice, would you like to be an expert mediator or a subject expert mediator? And the second part of my question is, even if you have domain knowledge and expertise of the subject of dispute before you, would you rather the answers came from the counsel of whether they have a good case, bad case, both ways, or would you rather reveal your own knowledge in a dispute before you?
That's a very interesting question, Sadhana ma'am. As to the first part of your question, whether I would like to be a an expert mediator or a subject expert mediator. Yeah. Let me put it this way. I would like to be a professional mediator. Okay. And based on what Chandyok sir said and Laila ma'am said, I would just like to develop that a little further and see what we need to actually do today. Because is mediation a profession now? Have we professionalized mediation? Or is it just a tack on to our qualification as lawyers? I think that's a question I think we need to consider here. Are we going to professionalize mediation as a profession, a standalone profession, without being a tack on to our whatever other qualifications that we might possess? Now, how do we professionalize it? To professionalize it, we need to first and foremost have the qualification prescribed. Now, like any other profession, we need to have a qualification prescribed for that. For that, we need a proper course. I think Chandyok sir raised a very pertinent question. Is a 40-hour training sufficient for me to become a good mediator? Honestly, I don't think so. Because I feel that there's much more to it. Because I feel a course in mediation, offhand, if I can just think of at least 3 important topics that need to be included in the curriculum. The first would be a working knowledge of law. The second would be a working knowledge of behavioral sciences, a little bit of psychology. The third would be the process, the process skill, how to conduct the process. So now, if supposing we go through this, we get this qualification, the next question comes as to who is going to certify that. Do we have somebody who can accredit us and license us and say that, yes, this person is a qualified mediator? We do that in the profession of law. We just don't walk into the court and say, I'm a lawyer, and start arguing a case. If we have to don the black coat and the black gown, which hopefully we should very soon get rid of, but if you have to don it, we need that certificate that is issued by an accreditation body, which is the Bar Council, which says that, yes, here is a qualified lawyer. Similarly, for a mediator. Now, what will happen if we don't professionalize mediation would be that we will have anybody who just undergoes the 40-hour mediation or even training, or without even the training, somebody coming forward and claiming that I am a qualified mediator, which is exactly what the statutes have done, which is what Chandyok sir has pointed out. And I'm in full agreement with him, because nowhere the statutes, it's actually in most of the statutes, it's more of an afterthought. The last qualification is somebody who's trained as a mediator. Nobody talks of training for mediation. Now, we all say that it is a process driven. It's a lot of skills that are involved. As Laila ma'am said, we need to have empathy. We need to understand a certain amount of psychology. We need to deal with the conflicts that people go through, the emotional trauma that they may be experiencing. All these things we need to deal with. And what is our qualification to deal with all these things? Does our 40-hour training qualify us? Or can we just become mediators even without the training? That is the first question that I would like to ask myself. The second part would be, now if supposing mediation comes out as a profession, where we have a proper qualification, we have an accreditation body, we have a process of licensing of mediators. Then the question of professionalism comes. What is the level of professionalism that I bring to my profession? We have great lawyers, we have good lawyers, we have ordinary lawyers like me. But what we need to see here is what makes them great. It is the artistry in practice. It is the artistry that they bring to the practice that makes them great. Now, where does this artistry come from? This artistry comes from what is called, in Donald Scon in his book has called as reflection in action. So what people who are, real professionals, good professionals, great professionals, what they do is they create a repertoire of their experiences, the theories, the overarching theories that are there in the subject. They have their own themes, they create their own metaphors. And as and when a situation arises, particularly in a mediation, because mediation, there are so many instances where we are simply taken by surprise. Some complexity, the sheer complexity of certain issues that come up, the sudden conflicts that, suddenly come up from nowhere. In order to be able to handle that, we need to bring in that kind of an artistry. Now, whether you want to call it as expertise or call it by any other name, it doesn't make any difference. But if you want to be a professional mediator, and if you want to be a great at your work, I feel that you need to first and foremost be properly qualified for it. You have to be properly licensed. You have to hold a valid license for it. Otherwise, we are opening the doors for a whole lot of. We have seen what happened with arbitration. We have had people setting up courts in their offices, with the witness box and all that, designating themselves as sole arbitrators, and then, virtually bludgeoning parties into some kind of a settlement. Do we want to create a similar situation with mediation is something we need to address. So that is where I feel it is very important that we need to professionalize mediation. Okay. Now, I personally, I feel that actually, all the three of us are on the same page as far as these aspects are concerned. Now, as Chandyok sir rightly pointed out, and Laila ma'am also agreed with him. Recently, in a recent webinar, Thiruvengadam was giving an example of a mediator asking, he was doing a commercial mediation, and he was asking the party, what do you mean by letter of credit? You need some working knowledge. You may not be an expert, but you need a working knowledge. If I'm going to do, supposing I'm going to do a divorce mediation, I need to be acquainted with the laws that are applicable to the parties. I need to be well-versed, or at least have a working knowledge of how minds work, how the psychology of people works. So unless I have that working knowledge, I cannot specialize as a divorce mediator. We come to the question of specialization now. Once we talk about professionalization, professionalism, and then specialization. Can we become specialists in a subject? This is an era of specialization. We have specialists in all fields. Laila ma'am said, for example, about IP, right? If you do 10 IP cases, you become an expert in that. You start specializing. People know that, oh, here is a good mediator who's good for IP matters, so let us go to him or her. Or here is a good mediator who knows something about construction law, and therefore let's go to this person. So there automatically that specialization will happen in the course of time. That is something that I don't think we can really avoid. That is something that we need to accept, and we may have some general practitioners, we may have some specialists in some subjects. That is something that is going to happen. But what I feel is, before talking about any kind of expertise, I think we need to talk about professionalizing it, bringing a lot of professionalism to our mediations. And only then I think we can meet that demand that is going to arise or that already exists. Unfortunately, we are not able to exploit the demand for the simple reason that We are not, I think my feeling is our approach, thanks to our legislation and thanks to the way we are dealing with the whole thing, our approach is a bit lopsided. I think we need to rectify that, and we need to look at it from the perspective of professionalizing. So to answer your question, I would say that I would like to be a professional mediator rather than an subject expert mediator. And if you mean expert mediator, if you mean process expertise, yes, I would like to be a process expert mediator. I would not like to compromise on that, and I would like to have a working knowledge of the domain in which I am mediating. Because without that, I cannot simply win the trust and confidence of the parties. Just one more thing I'll add, and I'll finish to what Laila ma'am said. I had a similar case where there was a dispute regarding the accounting of a firm. The partners could not agree on the accounts. I'm not an accounts expert, but what happened was I could get the parties to agree upon appointing a neutral chartered accountant who would go through the accounts and give his opinion on the accounts, and both of them agreed that they would be bound by his findings. We can always find a way out. Okay, we can always bring in the experts, but process expertise is something we can't compromise on, because it is a very structured process, and unless you know what flows from what and how to go about it, it's not going to work out. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Jawad, for that very comprehensive answer with a lot of important inputs and your understanding and explanation of professionalism. I think, as we understand, it's an entirely new, separate career, perhaps, with a mediation degree with law put into it, rather than a law degree that requires mediators to be trained later.
Exactly.
Now, do you envisage, because of your views, a mediation bar, which the Chief Justice has been talking about for quite some time now? And what kind of accreditation body do you see in the future? Because these two things will be required to professionalize mediation.
Yes. See, one thing is a mediation bar. Yes, definitely. I feel that is going to happen in the near future if mediation comes out as a profession. Now, we already have an example of that. We have the American Bar Association, which has two sections actually. It has a mediation section and it has a litigation section. So similarly, I think, but then again, the question comes as to whether it is going to be a monopoly of only lawyers. Mediation is going to be a monopoly of lawyers, or is the field going to be open to others also? Maybe, people with the domain knowledge in different fields, whether they will come forward as, whether they can come forward as mediators, and what would be their qualifications. So as I said, I think if we have a proper curriculum for a proper training in mediation, a full-fledged curriculum, not just a mere 40-hour training, but a proper curriculum followed by a proper evaluation and assessment, like how we write our exams, but we write our bar exams, right? So similarly, we should have some, because mediation being more of a process-driven method, I think we need to have two kinds of examination. One would be the theoretical part of it, and the other would be the practical part of it. It need not be a full-fledged graduate course, which would be very difficult for people to complete. Maybe this is not for me to say, it is for academics and experts like all of you to sit, brainstorm, and come out with suggestions as to how we can do it. As far as accreditation is concerned, I think we need to create a body. If it has a statutory recognition and basis, nothing like it. But since it's going to take time, as we have been discussing, I think in our various retreats and roundtables, I think we do need to have an accreditation body. Of course, we cannot enforce the accreditation. It will have to be something optional. But just as we have IMI, we have CIMI, we have all these bodies which don't have a statutory basis. They are all body corporates, or they are just entities created for the purpose of accreditation. Now, what is happening today in India is, if I train somebody, I accredit that person as the mediator. So what is the sanctity of that kind of accreditation? I would rather say that there should be an independent body which does not do the training, but which would prescribe the standards of training, and which would say that this kind of training, if you have undergone, and if we evaluate you and we find you qualified, we would like to certify you as the mediator. So that is the kind of accreditation that I'm talking about. Not supposing as a part of FCDR or as a part of Madhyam or CAMP. If I'm going to train somebody and I'm going to say that yes, CAMP is certifying or FCDR is certifying or Madhyam is certifying, that doesn't work. Because what is the sanctity of that? Yeah, so it has to be some independent body which will be accrediting the mediators.
Thank you. A lot of food for thought, Jawad. Thank you so much. Over to JP.
Sir, well,
Yes, sir.
Coming back to you, sir, again. Now, Jawad started with working knowledge of law, went over to specialization, then professionalism. But still he had a problem with a domain expert. Now, coming to you, sir, having heard your views on domain expertise, if you look around, there is a spate of new legislations incorporating mediation as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Some statutes even mandate compulsory mediation before approaching courts. Now the question is, now having heard all of you, how much of domain knowledge is enough for a mediator? What would you say to this?
JP, it's like this, I think let me take from what Jawad has said. We in our childhood have seen in all parts of this country, even today, most part of the country is still having the same thing. You only used to have a person called a physician. I mean, you had physicians like Dr. Vague, Dr. Davar, especially in Delhi, for example. And we still have some physicians down south, some physicians even in great hospitals. Where they are physicians, but by their clinical analysis of a person, they are able to tell many things. Now, what I'm looking at the views that my co-panelists have expressed, it looks to me with every legislation that has come. Let's take the case of Commercial Courts Act. Now, if I do not understand the concept of a commercial dispute in terms of the statute, then I will be neither a physician, specialization comes much later. However, if I have skills of mediator, I have domain knowledge, I may not be an expert as a commercial. I am not even confessing that. I am in fact saying here neither the legislature nor the sworded legislature, people who have been drafting these all high courts, though they are the experts in domain knowledge. I am saying so, I am confessing that part. I don't know, maybe subject to contempt, but doesn't matter. We'll face that also. But what I am saying is this, the working knowledge, to borrow the words from Jawad, is that I must have knowledge what commercial is. Take today, people are today, each one of us must be getting queries on tenant should
Sorry, sir, we just lost your audio.
I think both audio and video are lost.
Yeah, we've lost. So shall we come back to sir, JP, or should we wait?
No, we'll go back to sir. Why don't you then we'll go back to him again. You can ask Laila.
Yeah, we'll do that because I don't know how long this will take to correct. Now I'd like to shift a little bit, Laila, to certain principal and important aspects of mediation and how you look at it from the process and domain expertise. Particularly, Laila, because now private mediation has taken off in the country. Earlier, it was just quote and X mediation. That was our form of mediation in this part of the world. Now, slowly but surely, although it has its challenges, private mediation is now on its way and very much now establishing itself. From that point of view, aspects like neutrality and trust. We talk of the market forces and nicely brought about market will choose. neutrality and trust in the mediator are very critical parts of the mediation process. Now, will a process expert invoke greater neutrality and trust than someone who's known as a domain expert in A, B, or C kind of law, kind of dispute? Will that neutrality and trust evoke better neutrality and trust amongst disputants when they are not before a domain expert whom they may feel could be prejudiced, etc.? The other two aspects are the control and confidence of the mediator, which is very crucial in mediation because it's very important for parties to see that you are in control and that you have confidence in your skill. And in turn, then they have confidence in you. Now, how would you look at this aspect from the prism of process expertise versus domain expertise?
Sadhana, I think we have an agreement here that process expertise is important for a mediator. I also believe that the market needs a diverse range of products, right? Similarly, the market needs different kinds of mediators. Sometimes they might need somebody who's a domain expert, there's an interesting case of, I think it's, I don't have the details, but I remember reading this. This is US versus Microsoft antitrust litigation.
Famous one, yes.
Yeah. And Judge Posner was appointed as the judge. He's supposed to be the father of antitrust laws. He mediated, and if I remember right, he failed. Subsequently, they appointed two other mediators who were process experts. They were co-mediators. They designed a process, and that's how there was success in that litigation. So going back to what I said, I feel we need different kinds of mediators because the market needs that. Keeping the underlying theme of process expertise, the degrees of expertise, domain knowledge, let the market choose. Today we have a young market. I firmly believe 20 years from now, the market will get more discerning and we'll have a clearer understanding of what the Indian market needs. Going back to your question on neutrality and trust, I just want to raise an alarm that in India, the conciliation process did not take off. Why? Is it because our market needs that fundamental process expertise as well? And that's how they build trust. They want a neutral. They want somebody who knows the process. At the same time, the extent of the domain knowledge, expertise, they work with. So I think that's how I'd like to respond to that question. Yeah.
Okay. No, I agree. But I'd like to put the same question that I put to Jawad to you. Supposing a matrimonial matter comes to you, or a commercial matter comes to you, and you have domain knowledge, say in both, okay? And there is enough motivation for you to come in at any point of time in the process, whether it's information gathering, whether it's identifying interests, or whether it's options, examining options, identifying them, and selecting them, and then even the settlement. So I'd be very interested to know, even if you have that knowledge and parties are accompanied by their counsel, would you rather have counsel dealing with domain knowledge, assisting the parties on telling them whether they have a good case, 60% case, 30% case in court, or they don't have a 60%, 30% case? Would you rather have that communication of domain coming from the council to their parties rather than you revealing your knowledge? How would you approach it?
Mediation is an interest-based process. We always look to what is the interest of the parties. What is it that they want in this mediation? And I design my mediation to cater to that. However, I will not disturb the client-counsel relationship. Even if I have that domain knowledge, domain expertise, I will use it in a manner that it doesn't disturb that equation.
Wonderful. That's very well put, Laila, because often that happens. Often, since we are practicing lawyers, and we'll soon come to the question of whether you really need to be a lawyer to be a mediator. We're all practicing lawyers, and we face such situations very often in areas that we have, in Jawad's words, working knowledge of, or basic knowledge, or even sometimes maybe expertise in, which also sometimes over the years you do develop. It's always been a delicate balance for me as a mediator to decide whether I should reveal that knowledge or leave it to the counsel. So you're so right. It depends on the kind of case that comes and the kind of dispute it is, and the interest of the parties, and also the client-counsel relationship. So it's quite a tightrope walk. Thank you, Laila. JP is so bad. We can continue.
No, sir is not back. This is one of my biggest concerns. We are talking of virtual courts. We are talking of ODR. And if these are the kind of internet connections we are going to have, God forbid, how they are going to work, the online dispute resolution, how is going to work, I'm really skeptical about it. Now, Jawad, yes, Laila, yes, go ahead, Laila.
Yeah,
no, I'm
saying
just
something.
saying we'll work it.
Yeah, that's what they said.
very optimistic.
That's what
Let's be optimistic.
That's what an expert economist, when he was going from India, was asked, what do you think about India? He says, nobody in India works, but the Indian economy is still moving. So yes, we are very optimistic. Yes, we are very. But having heard Laila, Jawad and Sir, I'm more confused than getting any clarification. Laila says every subject of law can throw up an expert mediator in that particular subject. Jawad talks of working knowledge, then talks of specialization, then talks of complexity of issues. Then he says you should be qualified. I mean, I'm really confused, Jawad. Now coming to you, you are a hands-on mediator and trainer. In your experience, can basic knowledge of law replace domain expertise in mediation?
Okay. That's a very interesting question, JP. Now, it depends on the kind of dispute that you're handling, I feel so. Because if supposing I'm handling a dispute where questions of law are incidental, then my lack of domain expertise may not really hinder me from doing a mediation. But supposing it requires a certain level of expertise, like for example, where intellectual property issues are concerned, or where there are, you need to understand the finer nuances of how the contract is working out between the parties, in the sense that the execution of, supposing there's an execution of the project that is in question, and there's some dispute about what kind of quality of work that has been done. How I look at it is, okay, this actually is, it's something which is, we need to really discuss on, and we need to develop a proper idea on this. But how I look at it is it my place to substitute my knowledge for the knowledge of the parties? Now, supposing I have a domain expertise, am I going to rush in? Like Sadhana ma'am asked a question to Laila ma'am. Are you going to give the answer or wait for the council to give the answer? I ask myself the same question. Now, supposing I have a domain expertise, let's say that I'm doing a mediation under a construction contract, and there are disputes which say that, you know, whether the cement and sand aggregate used is the right quality, or whether the right mixture of bitumen was used. If these questions come up, do I need that kind of domain expertise to mediate that dispute? I don't know. I don't think. Should I really worry about, you know, there comes the question of super specialization, about which you're very confused. So am I, actually.
Can I just add here something?
See,
Can I add something?
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
One of the ethics of mediation is
Yes.
integrity.
Integrity.
If you feel this subject is too much for you, you're not able to handle it, you must have the honesty to say, you know, I really
Yes.
cannot handle this. You
Yes.
must get.
Laila, let me come back to you on this.
Now,
Jawad,
see,
now that you
JP,
people
just to
talk about
continue
How
my
else we do
answer.
this?
no, Jawad, you can continue. I mean, since you're now talking about
Yes.
specialization and basic knowledge, I'll give you an example which I often give. You know, in a matter which was before the mediator, there were two Muslim families. The husband and wife are Muslims, and the settlement says that they will move the, you know, they'll go in for a decree of divorce, and they will move the first motion and second motion. Now you call it basic knowledge or you call it an expertise?
It's a basic
I would call
knowledge.
it an expertise because no, because there is you need a special knowledge of Muslim law there, right? Is it not so? My question is, if you need the base, so see, if I'm not, I don't have any knowledge of how Muslim law works and how divorces come about in Muslim law, I may probably go ahead with that settlement agreement and allow the parties to file it in the court. What do I do there? So that is where the domain knowledge comes into play. Because if I don't know the law on that particular subject, like for example, in an engineering contract, which I was talking about before we went back, the basic question, like, am I as a mediator expected to know what are the percentages of the aggregates to be used? What is the level of amount of bitumen to be used? Am I expected to know all that? I'm not. So, should my domain knowledge extend to the level of expertise is my question. Now, supposing we are talking about super specialization in mediation, if that happens, then that question may come up that to what extent am I going to substitute my knowledge for the knowledge of the parties? Am I going to tell the parties that, no, this is what you should have done? See, I can give you an example of what happened in a matrimonial case. This boy was working in a foreign company abroad. He was working abroad in a foreign company. And there was a claim for alimony of 5 crores from the girl's side. And the lawyer had promised her that he can recover it by attaching this boy's salary in that country. Now, I had to go into a sub-caucus with the lawyer. I could have easily told the party, if I have the knowledge that it can't be done. Now, am I going to tell the party directly that, look, your lawyer is wrong, it can't be done? Or am I going to deal it in a different way? So what I did, I went into a sub-caucus with the lawyer. And I said, sir, out of academic interest, I want to know that assuming you get a decree, how do you propose to execute this decree? Is there some reciprocal treaty or arrangement with this particular country where you can go and execute the decree? And I said, sir, we are also aware that private companies, even in India, if we get a decree and we go to attach the salary, the person simply resigns and goes to another company. So how do you think you can meet this situation? I asked him this question, and he went back and advised his party that, look, this is not going to work out. It's better you accept whatever, a reasonable settlement. So the question is, how are we going to deal with these things? Are we going to use our domain expertise to substitute our knowledge for the knowledge of either the council or the experts whom the parties bring into the picture. Laila ma'am made a very valid point. She said, I would rather say that discuss with the expert. Now, I'm not an accounts expert. If a dispute regarding accounts, the parties agree that they will appoint an independent chartered accountant to go through the accounts and give his opinion. I think that would be a satisfactory dealing with the matter. Should I gain mastery over the accounts before I do a mediation? In the near future, I don't foresee that kind of domain expertise being required to do mediations. A working knowledge, as Chandyok sir pointed out, a working knowledge of law, basic working knowledge of law should be sufficient for us to go ahead with mediations. But process expertise is something that we cannot compromise upon.
I think sir is back now.
JP, you're muted. You'll have to unmute. JP, you have to unmute.
Sumit, yeah. Sumit, you'll need to unmute JP.
Yes. Now can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah, fine. Again, Jawad, I'm still hinging between the subject expert and subject knowledge, and still a mile to go before I actually get the answers. Sadhna, can you have the next question now that sir is here? Can you have the next question?
I think you were asking sir about the new legislation. You can complete that and.
Yeah. Okay. Sir, you were telling us about how much of domain knowledge now with the new legislations coming in. According to
that's
you,
what
how
I'm
much
saying,
of domain
JP,
knowledge?
I don't think I can put a degree of how much knowledge do I have. I must understand, I must at least read the Commercial Courts Act. I must understand what is a commercial, and I gave you an example of it. The Supreme Court is dealing with a question with respect to commercial court. I want to test all my people who are listening to us and my co-panelists. The Supreme Court, the word used in Commercial Court Act is a premises used for commercial purposes. These are the words of the statute. If you look at Commercial Courts Act, to be a commercial dispute. The Supreme Court says only when the tenant is in occupation that it becomes a commercial dispute. So supposing the premises is ready for commercial use and he's not giving me because he's making for some illegal demands, would not that be a commercial dispute? So purpose is that the working knowledge of that statute, if I do not have, I will not be able to handle a mediation of that nature. So our problem today is that we are now look at this country's situation. We lost 2G, the entire business went down only because one judgment. We lost coal because of one judgment of the Supreme Court. From ADM Jabalpur, it took us 41 years to come back to, and look at what we are grappling with today. Section 9 took us 12 years, and Hindu Succession Act, 7 years today. So where is the question? The mediator, if he has knowledge, I'm saying in fact the legislature doesn't have the expertise. I'm saying even the High Court doesn't have the expertise when they frame their rules. There is the question of my having expertise. But I must have that working knowledge of understanding. I must go deep into the question of understanding the basic instincts of that law, especially the new laws that are coming. And please consider what I'm requesting you people to look at. All laws that have come in the last few years, especially on economic laws, the statute is smaller than the subordinate legislation. And if the statute is smaller, they have given more power to the executive to frame rules or a board. So consequently, if I do not understand the niceties, I'm not saying expertise, please. The expertise, I'm still saying there's nobody expert here. I'm claiming that, and I'm saying that with all respect. Nobody can claim I'm an expert in a particular domain knowledge of law. Because every day the law is changing. Every day we find something new. Look at from 2016 December we brought about IBC. How many differences we have ironed out? And the last one is JP case, where this NCLT says, please implement, notwithstanding that the appeal is pending in the Supreme Court. Therefore, I'm saying if I do not understand the niceties, if I have not read RERA, for example, I have not read it in conjunction with IBC, how do I will mediate? And in fact, somebody raised that question, maybe JP, you only raised it. I go and settle with two financial creditors, and IBC is pending. What is the fun of doing that? And if I do not know that a particular person is disqualified to be a resolution applicant, he can't give a resolution. Therefore, I must, if that mediation has come to me, I must know what is that working knowledge of Section 29A of the IBC. But if I do not know, obviously, what will that expert tell me? Expert will tell me you're gone. And every day there is an amendment. Every day I find that there's an amendment in law coming, especially economic laws. Therefore, today, take the example of, again, what the finance minister has said. It says your ITR can be furnished by first date, your compliances of Companies Act can go by that date. Now, this is working knowledge. This is not expert knowledge about it. Now, I must apprise myself of all this. If supposing something matter comes, that who was supposed to comply, A director or B director, and I must know what was the time limit that must have. Therefore, it's new legislation separate, especially coming. The need of working knowledge of law is imperative to my mind. I am not undermining the knowledge of process of mediation. But if I do not have the working knowledge or fundamental knowledge of a particular statute, I do not think I can depend upon the expert for the purpose of doing a mediation unless I know the working part.
Yes.
So, sir, having heard you, I think it comes down to that, if I was to put Laila and you, part of the, they say two wheels of the same chariot, then, we'll have to go in for co-mediation in every case. Have an expert on process and an expert on domain knowledge in every case.
Oh, but I think Javed gave an answer. I must have in my curriculum a fundamental knowledge of working knowledge of law and must have the process as part of it. The first thing he said was qualification in law. Therefore, if every conflict is a nexus with law, then law's working knowledge is absolutely necessary.
Just to add to what Chandyok sir said, JP, see, that's a very valid point he has made. See, if you look at any dispute that comes up for mediation, there is the fundamental, impact of law on that dispute. And if you're going to talk about, settlement, that settlement definitely has to be within the framework of law. So without a working knowledge of law, it would be impossible for you to, merely on the basis of your process expertise, would you be really able to bring about a valid settlement between the parties? What if the lawyers are not properly informed? What if they don't give you the right kind of information, if you're going to be dependent on them to educate you about the law? Now, this is where you may have to sit with the lawyers and work with them and see that whether this agreement really meets the requirements of law, whether it falls within the legal framework, whether it would be an enforceable agreement. So these are all things, where I feel that, the basic qualification to be a mediator should comprise of all these three things: the law, psychology, and process.
Jawad, my problem is how many, basic knowledge of how many laws?
Can I add that?
No, JP,
Can I have a minute on that?
when we were
I think that was
graduating from the law school, and many of us have gone to the same campus law center, Dr. Upendra Bakshi said something very, very, very pertinent, I think, to our discussion.
Yes.
He said, we are not here to teach you all the laws.
Right.
We are here to teach you where to look for the law.
That's it.
And as lawyers, that's what we have done all our lives. We've tried to look for the law, whether it's the latest cases or whether it is a law that is, more relevant, one statute, another statute. So
I'll share a joke after Laila ma'am finishes. Laila ma'am says.
Laila wants to say something, Sadhana. Yeah.
yes, Laila.
What I want to add is, this comes as part of your preparation. As Sadhana said, how many times have we got briefs where we didn't know much about the law? We studied it. Burn your midnight hours, study the law so that when you get into that mediation room, you're prepared.
Prepared, yes.
So that's all
The
it
whole
takes.
problem.
Come out as a mediator.
Laila, the problem here is most of us as working lawyers go from the court and sit down and start doing a mediation. Where is the time for preparing for a matter?
I think there's immense time required, especially when you come into private mediation. Because the parties, you'll trip up. If you don't go to the extent, sometimes you even have to memorize certain dates of letters just to give them the impression that you've really studied the file.
See, so just to share first, I would like to share a joke on what Sadhana ma'am said about searching for the law. A friend tells his friend that I had this problem, so I went and met a lawyer. And the friend tells him, why did you go to the lawyer? After all, he's going to look in the book. So the friend says, but he knows which page it is on. So, so you see, actually, that is the essence of basic knowledge of law if you're talking about.
That's right.
I think we are already running.
I think just to add to what just one word.
Yes, Jawan.
Go ahead.
See, as on date, JP, you had said that we don't have time to prepare when we go to the court for conducting a mediation. See, as on date, we are treating mediation only as an ad hoc process. We have not professionalized mediation. That is what I'm coming to, actually. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. That I think basically we need to first and foremost professionalize mediation. Only then the gravitas will come. Only then the question of burning the midnight oil, as Laila ma'am has pointed out, preparing and then going into the mediation. We are now doing it simply as an ad hoc process.
And as a part-time profession, at best.
Exactly.
Today, for many,
it's
a part-time profession. And we have to take a call, I feel. You're so right, Jawad. We have to take a call at some point.
We have to take a call.
After some experience. Now, I think there are a lot of questions from the participants. So maybe, JP, we can have one last round of questions for our experts, or would you like more than one question?
I think you'll have to probably go into our next webinar on this in our series, because you're already 7:30. It's already 7:30.
Yeah.
We already overshot the time.
So let us do.
It's interesting. It's a very interesting aspect, but unfortunately we're running against time.
So we'll just ask our one last question each to our panelists, to our panel, and then I think our panel has also given us an idea about when we're talking about technical experts and co-mediators, and I just want to say that is what we wanted to have as a part 2 to this discussion, because we knew somewhere that this discussion cannot satisfactorily conclude today. So there's a lot that we will need to put into a part 2 here, and we look forward to having the 3 of you back again with us, and to also answer. There are so many questions, there are so many participants. There were 156 participants, many of them giving a lot of good suggestions, many of them asking questions. But for the moment, I think since we are on the law, I'd like to ask Laila one question related to that, and JP, then you can take over from there.
Yes.
Laila, an important aspect of mediation is an enforceable settlement agreement. And that enforceable settlement agreement is drawn up after the mediation is over. Now, who draws it up, whether the mediator is relevant at that stage, whether the lawyers, that's another issue. But if we are guided as process experts only by the interests and future relationships of the parties, interest-based, as you said. So if we are guided by their interest, then how do we as mediators ensure valid and enforceable domestic and international settlements? Because of all these specialized laws that we've been talking about, on which these disputes may be based. So implementation of a settlement or enforcement of a settlement is my question.
Okay. Sadhana, I believe, this is my perspective. My perspective on this is, it's the mediator's job to birth the terms of settlement. You work with the parties to find terms of settlement which are mutually acceptable. And then you must gracefully hand it over to the lawyers and be available, because we know lawyers can argue between may and shall. So be available to mediate the drafting when the lawyers are drafting it, because I believe the lawyers are the experts. So they draft the terms of the settlement agreement. I find the term, and then I mediate with between the lawyers on the drafting. But I step back once the terms of mutually acceptable settlement are found.
Okay. So you say that the legal terms you would leave to the lawyers.
Yeah.
The legal terms of the settlement you would leave to the lawyers, because as you rightly say, they will argue between may and shall. But will a lack of domain knowledge or working knowledge, lack of it, do you think that will come in the way of the mediator understanding that settlement, or the mediator ensuring that it is within the confines of the law, within the four walls of the law, that it is a legal and valid document?
That is a lawyer's job.
Okay.
They've been hired for ensuring that the terms of settlement are enforceable. It falls within the four corners of the law. That's their job. So I always hope that the lawyers who come in, and in private mediation, it normally happens. If a junior comes, I will make sure that the junior contacts the senior. The terms of settlement that they've drafted is sent to the senior. I will ensure that the best minds available have gone in.
I think we can't hear Sadhna. Sadhna has been muted.
Yeah. So that's what happens when JP was talking about technology, and we hope to do ODR. Anyway. So Leila, when you do your private mediation, do you sign the settlement along with the counsel and the parties, or the mediator does not sign the settlement?
If the parties, under our current situation, we have to convert it into a conciliator settlement agreement, in which case I sign. Yeah.
Okay. But if it is not a conciliated settlement, it's a mediated settlement, then
no.
As a mediator, you don't sign. Then the signatures are between the parties and the lawyers only.
Yes.
Right. JP, over to you.
Yeah. Sadhna, should we have the concluding question, or do you want to continue?
From Sir and Jawad, I think, yes.
Should we have the concluding remarks on the questions?
Yeah. We have
because you see, if you ask me, I am still not clear. You know, I mean, if you were to ask me that whether I need to be an expert on the process or an expert on the subject, and how many subjects, I mean, I gave a simple example, like, I mean, in case if I still need to be with so many laws. I mean, question is how many subjects, when Sir says complexity of so many laws, how many laws am I supposed to know? And then every time if I have to get somebody in, then probably, like, we'll have to have another debate on how to balance that issue. But one thing, Jawad, now
yes,
you talked about complexities of legal issues. Now, does every mediation involve legal issues? Every dispute which comes to mediation, do you think every mediation involves legal issues?
And can I add that one more question to Leila so that they can both answer?
Yes.
Leila, how important is it for a mediator to be a lawyer? Whether he or she is a domain expert or a process expert, is it necessary for a mediator to be a lawyer? So I thought both these can be answered one by one.
So you want me to answer that, Sadhana?
No, Jawad, I think JP asked him the question about legal issues. So,
See, I think in every mediation, there are three kinds of issues that come up, JP. The factual issues, which are the perspectives of the parties on how they look at the events that have happened and what their interpretation of those events is, which I would like to call them as factual issues. The second is the emotional issues. What is the party's reaction to those things and how they are dealing with that? And the third will be the legal issues as to how the future is going to work out and what kind of an arrangement has to be made for them to continue further. So I think all these three issues invariably come up in almost every mediation. I can't think of a mediation which would be without either one or more of the issues. I think all these three issues figure in every mediation. And therefore,
and Jawad, what do you suggest? How can you overcome the lack of domain knowledge? So if the legal issues, according to you, do arise, how do you see that? According to you, in your experience, how would you say that? One was, you said, getting an outside expert. What else?
Getting an outside expert, maybe go for a co-mediation with a person who has got the domain knowledge, or refer the matter to another person with domain knowledge. I do it as a lawyer. If supposing I get a criminal matter in which I don't have the expertise or the knowledge, I always send it to a colleague of mine who is an expert in that. So I can refer to JP if I have a matter which concerns patents and I don't have working knowledge of patent law. I would tell the party that, look, I don't think I'm qualified for this. Why don't you go to Mr. JP Singh? He's a person who's got some knowledge about this and he may be able to help you better.
Okay, let Leila come back.
Let's all share the booty.
yeah.
Yes,
So
Leila.
I understand you want me to respond to, I've lost video. So I understand you want me to respond to the importance of lawyers, right?
But whether a mediator, domain expert, process.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Leila.
I think the audio is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. See, the practice is that mediators are lawyers generally. But that doesn't mean non-lawyers cannot do it. I think they have very significant skills. So, and also, many mediations arise against the background of legal disputes. So it's important for the mediator to be familiar with the dispute resolution process. If a mediator has that kind of a standing, has the familiarity with the dispute resolution process, then not necessarily a lawyer. Otherwise, the general practice is to have lawyers as mediators.
Okay. Now we've lost Sadhana. I don't know. I mean, I can't see Sadhana on the. See, this is what technology does to us. And
no, don't worry, we're doing fine. We're doing fine.
And as it is, we are running against time. So you know that frustrates you more. Okay. Now, should you like let's have a concluding remark. You know, before I'm sure we are not able to answer all the questions what the participants have raised. Now, at the end, now that having heard all of you, now we'll like your comments one by one. Is there an overlap? Now the topic. Is there an overlap or a nuance between being an expert mediator or subject expert mediator? Is there an overlap or a nuance? Any one of you can start. Mr. Chandyok can start, and then you can have Laila and
Let
then
me
Jawad.
say, JP, I've said that, and I don't think I need to reiterate it, that basic knowledge, working knowledge of law is very, very essential and imperative as part of the mediation process. We cannot do a mediation process without knowledge of working position. And only to answer what Leila said, it only reminded me of my first early few days of my profession. The senior had asked me to draft an application for deposit of rent under Section 15 in Delhi Rent Control Act, and said, you please go to a particular typist. If you know, in district courts, we have those typists lined up in the corridors, who would type for you. So I would go to this typist and say that I've got this case, I want to dictate to you. He says, what you dictate? I know better than how to draft Section 15. That's possible because his knowledge of working knowledge of law over the period of time was much more than what probably I even have today. But that does not mean that the knowledge is not required. To my mind, working knowledge of every law, and to answer JP's question, how many laws will you know? It is possible. It's not necessary that every law I must know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I must therefore confine myself. Supposing I want to be a commercial dispute mediator, I must understand what commercial laws are. If I want to be, now today, the law is changing, even with respect to tax. We are bringing mediation into it. With respect to custom duty, we brought mediation into it already. Now, therefore, if a person does not understand what levy would you make on customs, what kind of goods can be customized, where would you warehouse it, then I am sure mediation will not be able to be possible. That's my view. And I want to add something else to what Javed said. Javed said 3 points. He said legal knowledge, psychology, process experts or process knowledge. I want to add one thing more important to that. Maybe it's part of it or it's not part of it. At least I have not heard it. Lately, I find humility is missing between us, both as lawyers and as judges, as mediators. So I think we must bring an essential element of humility if we want to work this profession up the line. Thank you.
Laila, before you answer this, now please at least tell us who's an expert mediator? Who would you say is an expert mediator?
There are so many. Anybody who knows the process, who knows to learn, who's educable, is a good expert mediator. And
Okay,
to answer your question, is this a nuance or an overlap? Let me be honest with you. I didn't understand the question. So, I'm reminded of a little poem by Maya Angelou, who said, I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. So make your parties feel good. Make them feel that they have won, they have achieved. And that's a successful mediation.
Jawad?
Yeah, JP. Now, if supposing we are talking of basic knowledge of law, as JP sir also pointed out, and Sadhana ma'am also pointed out that, I understand basic knowledge of law as the ability to think critically and to understand what the law is all about. Supposing I'm not expected to, be an expert in every field of law. I'm not expected to have a deep knowledge of every branch of law, every statute that is existing in the country or abroad, for that matter, internationally. But if I have the ability to critically analyze a statute and to understand what it's trying to say, I think I would call that as a basic knowledge of law. And just as lawyers, when we are entrusted with the case, we apply our minds to it, we study the law, we understand the nuances of the law, we try to see what the precedents are. Similarly, I think even as mediators, applying the basic knowledge of law to understand what the law is all about, what the law that is applicable to the subject matter of dispute is all about. Not for us to impose that knowledge upon the parties, but to help the parties or try to understand whether the parties are on the right track. And if they are not on the right track, how through a proper method of questioning we bring them onto the right track. I feel that that knowledge is essential for us. And that is where, as Laila ma'am said, I think preparation before going for a mediation is absolutely important. And I come back to my pet theme, let's professionalize mediation. Because unless we professionalize mediation, we are not going to achieve that level of efficiency. It will continue to remain an ad hoc process. There's no point in us talking about expertise in anything at that point of time. Are we, how many of us really do justice to a mediation in spite of our 40-hour training? Is a question I would like to ask myself. Am I doing justice to the mediation? Am I following the process properly? Am I really applying what I learned in my training? Am I applying it to this mediation? Many times I find myself wanting in that. When I come back and I analyze what I did, my behavior there, my conduct there, what I said to the parties, I feel, no, this I should have said in a different way. This I should not have said this. Or maybe I was, imposing my thought process onto the parties. Now, this is where I feel that, the process expertise, when we talk of process expertise, it is that awareness. When you're doing a mediation, that awareness as to what is it that you're going to do here? How is it that you're going to deal with the situation? How is it that you're going to respond to a particular, a development that is taking place in the course of the mediation? A sudden unexpected development may occur. How do you handle that? Now, this is what I call as reflection in action, to borrow the words of Donald Scott, where you need to have that, you need to bring that artistry into the process, into your practice. And that is where what I understand the meaning of process expertise as being. Still confused.
Thank you, Jawad. I know. Thank you, Jawad. Yes, I'll keep wondering. Yes, but finally, we've not got Sadhna back. So, and since we are already out of time, I mean, with everybody's permission, I'd like to conclude the whole thing by saying I'm still not aware, who an expert mediator is, who's an expert lawyer, who's an expert surgeon. But as somebody said, let the market forces determine that. Maybe, he will be the expert mediator because the person who actually is able to get, relief, a win-win settlements for parties who come before him. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the parties who will decide who's an expert mediator. So with these remarks, maybe we may continue again if possible. And may I take you back to Sumit? Sumit, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. So I would just conclude by saying thank you to all our speakers and the moderators. I think it's been an amazing session. We have been looking at the messages which have been pouring in on the sidebar, and everybody is really asking for more of such discussions in future. With this, I thank you all the speakers and moderators, and thank you everyone, all the attendees who joined us today for this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.